after it I will start. I hope I will get some message that okay, we are ready. Marci, akkor mi készen állunk, kezdhetünk. Azt nem tudom, hogy hány másodpercen van az után, hogy most még beszélünk, hogy mikor kezdjek. It is my pleasure to welcome you to this panel discussion about creating the student-ready university in memoriam of Sir Ken Robinson. It's a UGLO event. UGLO is the European University Alliance for Global Health. It's the acronym UGLO. It brings together 5 European universities from across Europe. Paris-Saclay University from Paris, Lund University from Sweden, Ludwig Maximilian University from Germany, University of Porto from Portugal, and University of Ghent from Hungary. UGLO is a long-lasting collaboration in higher education and research, and today evening we would like to show how prepared UGLO universities are for the next generation of students. And I would like to introduce Isabel Pinto from the University of Porto, Joachim Malm from the Lund University, Luke Millard from the Abertay University of Scotland, and my name is Lila Kocsis, and I'm representative of the University of Szeged. And Luke Millard, he will be the facilitator of this panel discussion.
Okay. Thank you very much, Lila, and thank you for that introduction. As you say, my name's Luke Millard. I'm Dean of Teaching and Learning at Abertay University in Scotland, and it's my great pleasure to chair this panel event. And the wonderful thing about chairing a panel event is you don't have to do too much, and that's always a good thing. You chair it and you hand over to the experts in the room who are going to really enliven the debate and showcase some really fantastic practice that's going around Europe and across these particular universities. My job is really to just do a sort of an introduction and manage the process. And I thought, you know, as I think about how I create this introduction, I thought about my particular journey in terms of where have I got to in this thinking, really, around creating that student-ready university. And I think, like a lot of us, you know, we journey through our academic lives and our professional service lives, and we pick up bits and pieces here and there. And it's only after a certain point in time that we join them together and we start thinking, oh, actually, that makes sense, and maybe there's a framework here I can pull upon. And certainly for me, and thanks to Lila for putting up the slide. For me, my journey started with the European First Year Experience Conference, and I joined that had that experience from about 2014 onwards, and go to that event most years, and I was very honoured actually to be able to chair that event in 2017 at my previous university in Birmingham, and that whole thinking and the whole notion of student transitions into university, and how we effectively design that first year experience to make students become part of our universities and generate those sense of belongings and participation for student success, build those foundations for student success, really started to grow in my mind as I was moving forward in that area and embedding work within my particular university at that time. And again, you start to explore the ideas. You hear wonderful people like Isabel and Joachim and Lila from various universities around Europe and the world talking about this transitions piece. And so you start to think, okay, well, that's fabulous. But where's the framework? How is this underpinned? And the wonderful work by Alf Lizier in Australia around developing these 5 senses of student engagement and student transition, that sense of how can we generate that sense of capability within our students, how do we tell our students how to effectively learn at university, how do we assure them and give them the confidence to believe that they can, how do we generate that sense of purpose of our students so that actually they see the ways in which they may engage and they identify where they want to achieve at university and beyond. Do our institutions have the resources, and do we have that sense of resourcefulness to enable our students to achieve? And can we create that connectedness of our students, between students and staff, and between students and the institution to themselves, so they have that sense of pride and ownership as well. But at the heart of Lizio's model, as I'm sure you all know, is that culture. What is the academic culture within our institutions that enables our students to succeed? So that, for me, was a really fundamental piece, which said to me, actually, now I have the model to build what we're trying to do in my universities and the ways in which I write and research around this topic. More recently, I've come across some wonderful publications which are on the slide. I was at in Ghent at the European Access Network conference. I think it was last year, but maybe it was the year before. I think with COVID, we all lose a year. I think it was 2 years ago now. But Tia McNair and some colleagues talked about becoming a student-ready college. And there's a really interesting book that which I've highlighted on this slide, which might be worth you having a look at. But again, that wasn't just about the academic nature and the culture of an organization, but it was about almost the systemic design of your university. How do you set up your university to make sure it is ready for students to come, and for, and almost turning that thing around? Potentially, there's a word like blame. Where do we make our students ready for university, rather than saying the student needs to be ready for our institution? So it flips it around a bit, and it's a really interesting debate and an interesting book there. And then most recently, I've picked up some work from America, where Peter Felton and Leo Lambert, I'll be talking about relationship-rich education, which I think is quite a nice term. How do we build the relationships within our universities to enable our students to succeed? Again, whether that's between peers, or between peers and staff, and how do we generate that sense of ownership? So there's some really interesting aspects in this journey, certainly in terms of my learning, and in terms of how we move forward and try to shape our understanding of university, and to shape our ways in which we build our universities to make them student ready. Specifically for me, I think we are at a time of a pandemic, probably the strangest time in all of our lives. And what we will have been learning, and I'm sure we're all learning across Europe, is the ways in which we effectively engage with students online. Now, some of that is there are real strengths, and I'll talk. All I can talk about is Abertay University, where our surveys of students and our engagement with students suggest actually the engagement with academic staff online is fabulous. They almost see this as a one-to-one. I am talking to you, and therefore it's personal from an academic member of staff to a student. However, the relationship with students online has been destroyed, because they're not able to generate that sense of community and that belonging unless you know otherwise, and you've created some wonderful thing. Maybe we'll hear from Joachim and Isabel later that they've solved that. That's fabulous. But actually, that there's a real challenge for us in universities in terms of how we move forward in that. And obviously, we hope we're all going to be back on campus in September, October time. But what have we learned? That's the key. What have we learned from what we've been doing? What aspects of this sort of relationship-rich approach do we want to engage in on our campuses? So we might say, okay, we've developed lots of effective content delivery online. We'll continue to do the content delivery, or the lectures, as they might be called, online. But we've really focused on the workshops, the collaborative activities, the developmental pieces where students are working with students and working with staff in really exciting relationship-rich ways, or in knowledge-rich environments, as some people call them. Are those the things we're going to be working on? And will that see us redesigning our campuses to better effect that? So lots of great things have been going on. We've learned a great deal in the last year through delivering stuff online. And now is a challenge for us is about how we take this forward. So what I'm looking forward to today is hearing from our colleagues as to the ways in which those types of opportunities have been realised, and how we've taken how they've taken them forward. Because for me, I think what this seminar will be looking at really is, I suppose, is the intentionality and the happy accidents, I suppose. So the intentionality is, what have we designed? What are the activities we've designed? And we're going to be hearing some interesting cases around that. But as a result of that, and lots of us talk about unintended outcomes, the unintended learning outcomes of what we do. Okay, well, unintended or happy accidents. So what else is it? What are the added value nature of what we're doing and of what we've created? And I'm sure we're going to hear some interesting pieces of that. So the intentionality is how can we design in relationship-rich activities to make sure that our students have those foundations for success, which Lizio and the various others have spoken about. How do we design those successful student behaviours and role model the ways in which students know they can be successful at universities? And I think some of the mentoring pieces we'll pick up, and the supplemental instruction pieces we'll pick up, will perhaps showcase the way in which we design in those successful models of operation. And I suppose also going back to the Tia McNair piece about becoming a student-ready college, how do we design in the processes and the procedures that don't become barriers? Very accidentally, often university will design barriers into their processes which stop their students succeeding. And perhaps this is, again, an opportunity for us to think about how we design out those things once we've identified them, but also how we enable that student flow through the university that enables them to be successful. So I've rambled on for a bit in terms of giving an introduction as to my thinking and the ways in which I'm looking forward to creating the frameworks around what we're going to be hearing about. We've got 3 talks coming up. Those people, in terms of Lila, Joachim and Isabel, are going to talk for about 10 minutes, and then we're going to open them up for about 5 minutes of questions after each talk. So, Isabel is really going to be talking. I'll very quickly give an introduction, Isabel, but you'll surpass it instantly. Isabel's going to be talking about sort of mentoring and inclusive peer relationships. Lila's going to be talking about sort of extracurricular frameworks and the ways in which we might utilize those to support students in their scaffolding that sort of successful behaviors. And Joachim's going to be talking about supplemental instructions and the ways in which that can become a sort of development tool for students. So I think we've got some 3 very interesting and very different perspectives on this. What I will now do is draw myself to a close so we can move on to the interesting pieces, and I will hand over control of the slides and everything else in that regard to Isabel in the first instance. So Isabel and for Porto, I hand over to you. Thank you very much.
Hi everyone. I hope you are all well and safe and looking and listening to this very nice event. I would like to thank the invitation and the opportunity to present our mentoring program. The Oporto mentoring program is aimed at promoting a positive integration and academic life experience to new students that arrive to University of Porto, where the students' well-being in academic, personal, social and cultural dimensions are its main focuses. In other words, the Oporto mentoring program is concerned with encouraging students' academic success and reducing risk of dropout, as well as ensuring that the experience in higher education is lived in a space of freedom that encourages autonomy with less perceived insecurity and anxiety, and full of new experiences provided by a social support network that embraces diversity and positive intercultural exchange. The Oporto mentoring program is sustained in some structural dimensions. Institutional responsibility. This program, developed by the University of Porto institution, takes the responsibility for welcoming and onboarding new students. Higher education institutions have been gaining more and more awareness of their responsibility on the planning and implementation of integration processes to new students, especially given the increased diversity of national and international students. Indeed, it is time for higher education institutions to assume an active role in an integrative process and on personal and social development of their students. Peer relationships. This program recognizes the importance of peer relationships as the most fundamental mechanism to ensure a sound integration process. These peer relationships provide new students, the mentees, the opportunity to be supported by more experienced peers, the mentors, on a voluntary basis to oversee their onboarding process and to support their academic path. Due to the private and deepened character of these dyadic relationships, dramatic cases of needed students have already been identified and guidance can be provided to them. These relationships are symmetrical and hierarchy-free, sustaining democratic solidarity and social equality values, consistently reinforced and embraced by all involved. The mentor support to mentees ranges from basic issues such as registration, classes and teachers, restaurants, and so on, to more complex topics that may seem more difficult to those just arriving, for instance, social and emotional support. Now, the pedagogical dimension. All programs that compose the Oporto mentoring program are coordinated by volunteer teachers, since this program has a marked pedagogical dimension that benefits both mentors and mentees. Indeed, it is our belief that this program has great impact on the development of students' transversal skills. Traditionally, students have assumed a passive role in the academy, but mentoring program aims at awakening them to their active role in contributing to the integration process of new students, and also to a new identity about what is being a student. This new role implies the learning and assimilation of new skills such as empathy, solidarity, social and civic responsibility, skills that frequently seem incompatible with the competitive institutional academic climate. The pedagogic methodology of this program is student-centered, in which mentors assume an active participative learning process throughout the experience, based on both formal, but mainly on informal learning practices, namely in the field. Students frequently express their motivation to become mentors based on their experience as mentees, either because they had a supportive mentor who made him or her want to become equally supportive for others in need, or because they had a negative experience with their mentor and want to make the difference. Such expressed motivation leads us to acknowledge that these dyadic peer relationships also constitute rich learning experiences for mentees. This program started last year in June 2019, the beginning of the academic year, and is already implemented in 12 of the 14 faculties within the University of Porto, as well as in the university residences. All these institutions carefully follow these dimensions that I mentioned above in their specific mentoring program, but of course each program is adapted to each faculty's reality, which brings a great diversity within the Oporto mentoring program that certainly enriches the global project and enhances the quality of mentors and teachers' experiences. Each program is specifically coordinated by volunteer teachers working in the respective faculties. Some of these teachers compose the Transversal Coordination Commission and are in charge of guaranteeing mentoring transversality in the University of Porto. I also have to emphasize that this Oporto mentoring program is a single program implemented in the University of Porto and is coordinated by the Vice-Rector Maria de Lourdes Fernandes, and by a scientific and pedagogic coordinator commission that encourages and helps in the implementation phase of the current programs in each faculty, and also supports teachers' coordination in each program, besides monitoring the programs and promoting opportunities to share experiences. This commission is composed by 6 teachers of 2 faculties that had already implemented a mentoring program in their respective faculties, one starting in 2011 and another in 2015, and with very positive results. The Oporto mentoring program is inspired to a great extent on these programs. There are formal training sessions at the beginning of the academic year to inform about logistical issues regarding students' registration, university and faculty services available to students, the role of other institutional groups such as students' associations and so on. But experienced mentors also play a relevant role in newly mentoring programs, namely by providing training sessions for other less experienced mentors. Although formal training sessions occur in the beginning of each education year, the Oporto mentoring program is very active throughout the year. The dyadic relationships obviously occur permanently, And all mentoring programs, including the UPorto mentoring program itself, are in charge of planning and implementing collective events and encouraging the development of interfaculties events too. Some examples of these activities are hosting sessions for new students, welcoming sessions for international students, workshops promoted by mentors, social events, and recently, because of pandemic, the online social events. Collective activities also reinforce social cohesion and positive sense of belongingness. Currently, we have already a significant number of teachers, mentors, and mentees, as you may see in this slide, involved in program. UPorto mentoring program currently covers 87 courses among the 3 levels of existing study cycles, graduation, master, and PhD, although the main incidence of mentoring is in the first cycle. The 2 graphic pies that you can observe represent some results that we obtained through surveys that we asked mentors and mentees to respond at the end of last semester. We thought that it would be nice to have some results and perceive the efficacy of this program. About 40% of mentors and 35% of mentees responded to this survey. These graphic pies refer to the relative weight of support that mentors report deliver to mentees and that are requested also by mentees. Results show that the academic support, the peer relationships, followed by emotional support. This type of support, emotional support, was higher in this year as compared to the last one, and it's our belief that it's of course because of the pandemic. But they also need support regarding faculty and university services and of course integration processes, the mainly focus of our program. Finally, I would like to provide some results regarding their global satisfaction with the mentoring program. As you can see, the large majority of both mentees and mentors show a global satisfaction with the program, as you may see by the percentage of satisfied and very satisfied responses. Although we need to understand dissatisfaction and also why so many of them did not respond to our survey. But anyway, these results are very positive and encouraging. But despite that, I should say that there is a lot to do. For instance, consolidate the program, enlarging to the remaining faculties, work with mentors, mentees, and teachers on a continuous and regular basis. Thank you so much. I think I accomplished the time.
Perfect.
Yes, thank you so much.
Brilliant, Isabel.
I'm open to questions. Feel free to ask whatever you think it might not be clear.
Well, hopefully, some questions may appear in the chat, and we will encourage those. Whilst people are thinking about that, can I ask a couple of questions, Isabel?
Yes.
Because I'm fascinated by what you talk about. I think many of us will have some experience of mentoring programs of some sort, but they tend to be slightly different wherever they're offered. In terms of your program, is it voluntary for students to participate okay, well, and I think that's really interesting. So certainly research that from my old university, when we offered mentoring out to students and said, yes, you can have a mentor if you wanted. As you say, a relatively small number of students participated in it. But what we found was a great number of students were immensely reassured that mentoring was available if they needed it. Have you picked up anything like that? That actually you're having a real close impact on a local impact on mentees, but actually the wider student body is benefiting as well because it believes that a resource is available.
We have since that the rectorate how can I say started to coordinate this program, I believe that all faculties and majority of faculties were very involved in implementing a single mentoring program across university. And well, the mentees, we have some strategies that encourage them to have a mentor, to choose a mentor, because we have, for instance, in the registration, some of faculties welcome the student, the new students, and help them to register. And we have access to the new students and send emails, and there's a process that's an ongoing process that is already sustainable and reinforces these peer relationships. Of course, some of the mentees do not feel the need to develop this relationship in a great extent, because they do not feel the need to support, for instance, or they have other support or other type of also of supports. But anyway, it's our belief that the institution has the responsibility to provide to new students this type of program. And also they know that they have their mentor available whenever they need. We also encourage mentors to time to time to make some connections with mentees. With the pandemic, of course, through the mobile and email. But anyway, we thought that I can in parallel talk about the pandemic a little bit. We thought that the peer mentoring relationships would be a little bit weaker at this time, but no. We found, and it was very surprising and very interesting with this data, that we found that people are involved, both mentees and mentors, and they are all connected, and they feel really the need to connect, and they really gave some suggestions to continue the online events. If they cannot be face-to-face, in presence face-to-face, they want to be involved in events organized by the mentors in online social events. So I believe that our mentoring program, although being very young, still very young, has already gained a dynamic that that is feeding itself, you know. I don't know if I responded to your question.
No, you did, and I think that almost analogy of feeding itself is to say is very opportune. I mean, we're in a time of pandemic, and I often think that in terms of mentoring activities, students infect each other with good ideas, with strategies for behaving, and to say through encouraging the mentees and mentoring, to say you get a lot of unintended good news and a lot of unintended guidance being generated by the students themselves. So I think that's what you're really talking about as well, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. That is fabulous. Thank you very much for that, Isabel. That was really interesting talk. I'm now going to move us on, if it's okay, because we haven't got any questions in the chat, I don't think. So at the moment, perhaps people might want to reflect on it and come back to us at the end of the talk. We'll now move on to Lila and the wonderful story of what's been going on at Szeged.
Thank you very much, Isabel, for your presentation, and thank you, Luke. I will speak about my favorite project here at the university, and this is the Estea Plus project. I really enjoy it, and I'm always happy and excited when I can share our experience about this project. However, the engine of this project, Estea Plus, Peter Szakál, is not here today, and we miss him. I will try to do my best and to speak about this project. Estea Plus, it's an acronym. Estea is the University of Szeged in Hungarian, and plus means that it's something extra in the university life, in the study life. It's something extracurricular what you can enjoy when you are a student here at the University of Szeged. The story of this Estea Plus started 6 years ago. So 2015, the University of Szeged started to run competency tests. That time we had no idea about this STIA Plus, but when we saw the first results, then we thought that it's time to do something to support the integration of the freshmen. Because one of the most important results of this competency tests was for us that our freshmen have difficulties in the first time, in the first some weeks of their university lives. So the integration, the administrative tasks, and the first days at the university, they were really hard for them. So we decided to find something out in order to help them. And this program is the STIA Plus program, and we say that we think it's a source of the happiness. At the end of my presentation, I will show some pictures about it, about this happiness. So the STIA Plus, it's a copy of a program in the UK. The Birmingham City University had the Graduate Plus program. You can see the two schedules, the schedule of the Graduate Plus here on the left side, and on the right side, the schedule of the Hungarian version, the STIA Plus program. As you see, we have 4 attributes in Szeged. The visionary, the realizer, the professional, and the explorer attributes, because we thought that after the idea of Birmingham, that we collect challenges, activities for the freshmen, what they can do as a gamification project in the first some weeks or the first some days of their university life. So this project is a gamification of an information overload of the immatriculation process. It is quite difficult, not only for the freshmen, but for the families of the freshmen too, to collect all the documents and to do all the steps to be a university citizen and to have everything in their hand. So after the idea of Birmingham, we collected these challenges, and we thought that we can give them in an order based on these four attributes. The professionalism, it means something regarding their studying. The explorer means something in the cultural life, for example. The realizer means that something regarding their attributes, about their approaches, about their managing skills, and the visionary is about the creativity. As you know, as you see, when we speak about attributes, we can say skills too. So this program is a skill development program for our freshmen, and after one semester we opened it for the other students, not only for the freshmen, because it was quite popular for them to get badges at the university. The first stage of this hour is bronze, so it's the first. And it's about attending, exploring, get to know the services of the university, get to know the buildings, the peers, the teachers, the study offices, and so on. So get something or get information about the university and the offices, the places, and the services that they can get help and support during the university life. Activities on the bronze could be, for example, meet your tutor, get to know the university building, or join a society, finish the application process, and so on. And our students needs to complete 12 of these activities. We have almost 100 activities, so extremely much. They can choose what they prefer, but they need to choose 3 activities from each attribute, also from 4 field. It means 12 activities. And I can see some, or I can show some examples. Here are the most popular challenges, the most popular activities from the first some semesters. So as you see, it's really a gamification. For example, the best one is change the color of the napkin. Napkin is the study system of the university. It's not really fresh or really designed platform, but you can choose your favorite color, what you would like to see, so you can have a pink Neptune or a university blue Neptune and so on. But it's a tricky challenge, but because you can choose your favorite color when you finished the application process and when you registered. So when you did something, then you can have your favorite color. Or maybe it can be strange for you, My Mother's Chicken. It's a website, the Mother's Chicken. What kind of challenge can it be in the university life? It's a website where you can get some support if you would like to study poems. The Mother's Chicken, it's a Hungarian poem. Everybody knows it here in Hungary. But you can see here quizzes, or here is a challenge about the canteens. It means that you can get some support if you would like to find a place where you can have your lunch. These activities are peer reviewed. So when a student can complete an activity, he or she need to check 3 others. So if you have the canteen test completed, then you can see 3 other canteen tests too, and you can get more and more information about the study life and about the student life. Here is the Wi-Fi everywhere. Please find your favorite place at the university where you use Wi-Fi. It's a really great feedback for us. We have extremely very much information about their life. So after this challenge, of course cannot name, we can have the best places at the university where the students like to have Wi-Fi, where they like study, where they are happy to be together. So we really like these challenges, and we asked our students to help us to find out them. Because after a while, when they got the first 12, or when they got the first steps at the university, they can have more and more impressions about the student life. As you see, the 11 of these challenges can be met online. It was really important for us that in the period of pandemic, we can give support and online support for them. With this peer review, so it was a new challenge for us, not only for the students, to find out a solution for the online life, and I think they appreciate it and they use it. As you saw, 12 activities from the Bronze Award is enough to have the bronze badge and the certificate, but they did more and more, maybe more than 20. However, they cannot get another badge, another bronze badge, or another bronze certificate. The silver, it's the next level, but with other challenges and activities. But they were happy to do it, and they liked it. Also, they didn't stop. They forward. They continued it, and it was a really good feedback for us. If I would like to summarize our numbers, I would show these numbers here. So our student in this STA Plus program is a regular student. He or she lives in a dormitory and is financed by the state. So these students are like or they like this project. It's quite popular among them. But we've got other results in this project too. And for example, we saw that our students liked the challenges, the activities in the field of professional and work reading. They really preferred this type of challenges regarding their studies. And they preferred the challenges individual. As you see, the group tasks are less popular among them. The most important information was for us that this number, 6%, was a quite new result. You see here this were type 0 dropout rate. It means that our students can can apply for the higher education in a centralized process, and they can choose the universities where they would like to study. There are students who are successful in this process. They can enter the university, but they don't do it. We don't know exactly why not, because they have a new situation in their life. They would like to study something else, and so on. There are some tests or surveys about it, but 10% in Hungary of these students have this dropout. So this type 0 dropout is 10%. But when we started this STR Plus program, it was established in 2019, our dropout rate was below the national rate. It was 6%, and it means more 100 students in our university life. So it was our great success that we saw that we can help the students to start their life. You see here that we are really happy to think that we can give something for our students to be work ready. Of course, we need more time to have a survey about it or to test it, but we strongly hope it, because it's one of our goals. I promise that I will give you some or I will show you some pictures about our programs. You can see here the certificate about the Bronze Award, and we organized before the pandemic. We organized events for our students with activities. We created chocolate. You can see here the chocolate. Or we had a meeting with a rock band. We had a movie night in a secret room of the library where they cannot enter, but this time they had the opportunity to get the badge and to see a movie together. So we organized events, and we really liked it. And I like the story of this girl. She shared us that she were very disappointed when she got the information, the message that she will be a student in Szeged. She did not prefer this university. She wanted to study something else in another university city. But after a while, she started to play this gamification STR Plus, and she had a roommate and friends. And she said that after some steps, it was a great surprise for her to start the university life. And I'm really happy that we can collect these smiles and thank yous of the students. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Lila. That was fabulous, and same, a very interesting initiative. As you say, it's I think one of the key things you've identified here is the impact of what you've done. You know, it's measurable in terms of that improvement in retention rates, and and obviously, nothing is isolated with an institution, and there might be other things as well. But this is clearly a major initiative across the university, which has had a significant impact. And builds on all those things, as we said, we mentioned earlier, in terms of if you can get students to participate and engage in activities at university, they stay. It's not rocket science. It's very simple, but doing it well is very difficult. And you have clearly designed something very effectively that enables that to happen. So many congratulations on that. We don't have any questions at the moment in the chat. And we're starting to run out of time. So I'm going to make sure we stick to time, and I'm sure people can pick up questions with you shortly, Lila, if they need to. So I'm going to move us on to Joachim to talk to us about supplemental instruction. I think you're on mute at the moment, Joachim.
No, I'm unmuted. Thank you.
Now you're perfect.
Yeah. Hi, everyone, and thank you very much, Luke, for introducing me. And it was really nice to hear your presentations, Isabel and Lilla. Thank you very much. I'm going to talk about empowering students and helping them to experience success using an academic peer learning program called SI PASS. And SI stands, as Luke mentioned, for supplemental instruction. However, in Europe, we also use another name because supplemental instruction is perhaps not that transparent. So we use something called peer-assisted study sessions or peer-assisted study scheme to better explain what supplemental instruction is about. So if you hear the word PASS, it's exactly the same thing as SI. My name is Joachim and I'm an associate professor at Lund University. I'm doing quite much of SI PASS during my time, so approximately half my time is spent for that. And what is then SI PASS? A little bit, but just shortly the agenda for this short talk. That is something that I will try to define to begin with. And then, since SI PASS is something that we use at Lund University, you want to know, does it make a difference for the students at Lund University? Because this is something that is applied mainly to new students at the university. So what Luke talked about, the first year experience, how can we enhance that in a good way? And then in the end, I hope there will be some nice questions. Yeah. So let's start. What is SI PASS? It's an active learning program, meaning the students does the work, which is really great. So we can just sit and relax. Not really, but this active learning program is something that we connect to a course, because during the active learning, it's more that students deal with things they find difficult, and difficult things you might find in challenging courses. For instance, courses where the failure rates are quite great. So there's high percentage of students failing. So this is a way to help them to actually get better success. It's a complement to the regular education, so it doesn't replace anything. It doesn't replace lectures. It doesn't replace seminars or exercises. And because it's more or less reliant upon that, you get the information from the lecture, from the teachers, and that is the thing that you process together with the students. And that you do by forming student groups, normally about some 10 students that meets weekly. And it's a student group that is led by a senior student, a student that has taken the course previously, perhaps 1 or a couple of years before, with a good result. And the role of the SI PASS leader is not to be a teacher. So they shouldn't reteach the material. They shouldn't provide solutions or answers to specific problems or questions. What they should do is help the students identify what is hard in the course, what is difficult to understand, and then organize different learning activities, active learning activities, to process the course material to get a better understanding. So it's about processing course content, and you do that together. So it's collaborative learning. People explain for each other what they have understood that far. And normally when you're a collection of students, somebody knows something that somebody else don't. So by talking to each other, you normally fill in the gaps for each other. So you get a much better understanding afterwards. And furthermore, since you get different perspectives, you're also able to enhance and get a deeper understanding. One thing that is pretty specific for SI PASS is that it's the participants that decide the agenda for the session. They know what is hard for them, what is difficult in the course. Obviously, the senior student might have a good idea, but sometimes it differs. So it's good if the agenda is decided by the participants. The SI leaders have quite tricky job. So they need to be trained before. They get a 2-day training where you focus heavily on different learning strategies, active learning strategies that you can use, as well as group management. And they're not left alone after that, so they're supervised all through their practice as SIPAS leaders. So you have regular meetings with a supervisor or with other SIPAS leaders. You also get observed, so you can get feedback on how things are going and perhaps decide upon this I want to improve just to be a better SIPAS leader. And this model have existed for almost 50 years, so it's a well-established model. It's also a model that has spread from the United States, where it originated, to quite many countries around the world. So this is a little bit what SIPAS is. So why start an SIPAS program? Originally, the main goals were to, 1, improve student performance, and 2, perhaps the most important because it's related to money, to reduce the amount of student dropouts. However, during the time, and especially in Europe, you have looked on qualitative things as well. So it's not just about increasing the number of people, for instance, having a passing grade in a course. It's also creating a bridge between secondary and tertiary education, because it's a little bit different to study at university compared to high school. Also make it more fun by letting students see each other as learning resources. When you discuss, you also have different viewpoints, and you have to, in sort of way, place yourself to the different thoughts that are, or ideas that come up. So you train yourself in critical thinking. Also get a better sense of belonging in an academic environment, because when you meet your peers in a pretty relaxed environment, you can sort of integrate yourself a little bit better academically as well. It's also about training students to argue for and motivate their ideas. It's something that is quite common later on, that their teachers will ask them, and to do that in a relaxed environment is pretty good. And I'm afraid there is a cat in the background, so take it easy with that. Anyways, improve student study strategies is another important thing as well, because it's different to study at university compared to high school. And work together is a really good way of making studies social, and you also have an extra dimension when it comes to learning. And create networks of study partners. I know at our university, I suspect it's like that at every university, the students learn to party really quickly. So they have a good party connection with others and social connection with others. But knowing who to study with might not be the one you party with. So getting to know those through SIPAS sessions is quite nice indeed. Okay. So that's why you can introduce SIPAS. If you just get, I said before that it was an international well-established peer learning model. Actually, more than 1,500 higher education institutes have had personnel trained in the SIPAS model, covering some 30 countries. And if you look particularly in Europe, because that's where we center now, we have SIPAS programs at some 75 higher education institutes. That means universities, university colleges in 10 countries, and that's from Norway up north down to Cyprus in the south. And we also have some 8,000 or more than 8,000 SIPAS leaders that are employed annually, and more than 1,500 courses are supported by SIPAS. So it's quite a big thing in Europe, but I'm not sure how much people really know about it if you're not one of the countries having that. So does it make a difference? I will look at Lund University really quickly, some quantitative data, some qualitative evaluation data, but it basically resonates throughout, independent of where you are. So if you're in Lund University, or if you're in Australia and United States, or wherever you have an SIPAS program, it looks fairly much the same. And if we look on the quantitative thing to begin with and compare SI attendance or SI pass attendance to course results, in this here it's expressed in the percent of passing grades that you have for a course. It's a little bit different courses here over different faculties at the university. And what you can see is that the results tend to be better the more you attend SI pass, independent of which course you have. So this is an indication that SI pass seems to make a difference with regard to student performance. If we look a little bit qualitatively, we can look on other potential benefits, and these are student views from Lund University and what they like with SI pass. And I will actually let you read that because I talked a lot. So I will let you read that for a minute. So it looked a little bit different when I prepared the presentation. It goes together at some places there, but I think you get the main points anyways of what the students like, or these are some examples of what students like with SI pass. So this is just to hand over to Luke, and also to just say if you want some more information about generally about the program, there's a website that you can visit as well. So questions?
Thank you, Joachim. That was really interesting. And as you say, SI Pass, I think, has an international reputation because it works bluntly, and therefore it's something to consider as institutions about how we might best support our students and help them develop. Can I start off by just asking you a question? And it's something I think the other two presentations have alluded to, but not really gone into any detail. And you mentioned it briefly. You talked about social interaction as well as you say, academic support or whatever. And I just wondered how you saw that blend working, and what was the value for you of that social interaction piece?
That I can expand on quite a lot. First of all, on a personal level, I love to spend time with the SI pass leader because of some reason we just get terrific people. So just talking to them is a good social experience for me. But I suspect it wasn't what you really were asking for. So I will give another example, and that will be about actually master students, because we have international master students coming to Lund University. You can imagine people coming from different countries coming to this strange country up north called Sweden, and they're supposed to adjust to a new education system. And that is not so easy. They don't know what is expected of them, where to find what. And to have senior master students coming also from different countries, explaining for them what the Swedish education system looks like, how an exam is, how you reference, and things like that, besides going through course material, is quite valuable. It eases the start for them. And they can ask all types of questions to the SI pass leader. It doesn't necessarily have to be about academic things. And also by having a sort of relaxed atmosphere, we have one thing that is quite common, and that is that you have a sort of short coffee break in the middle of the SI pass session, just to talk about things in general. Yeah. And also to socialize. And that seems to work quite a lot, and especially in master's program where you perhaps don't have that many social events. Besides, you get to know all your classmates quite good, and it's a way to just get into studies in a good way and get that social dimension.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we'd all agree that is vital for as you say, for students you know, and that sense of belonging, because, you know, that sense of belonging means that you have friendships and you have contacts and you have connections, and whether those are staff or colleagues or someone in the library or whoever it is, maybe the receptionist or the security guard that you get friendly with, whatever those connections are, if you can build those, and they give you that framework for staying at university and for engaging. So absolutely, I think that's spot on. Right, I'm going to try and keep us to time, and therefore I think I need to start to pull us to a close, Lilla. So I'm just obviously going to start off by saying, for the four of us here, if you have any particular questions, please feel free to get in touch with us. Because absolutely, we really welcome the opportunity to continue the conversations that we've perhaps initiated here, and hearing the different perspectives. And we know this medium sometimes isn't one that people are most comfortable in. So if there are particular questions you want to, please feel free to email us or contact us, or and we'd be delighted to engage in any sort of follow-up in that regard. I think the things have come to me from and sort of trying to draw these presentations together. I mean, we certainly heard a lot about how we enable our students to engage with other students, how they get them to engage with our institutions through designing processes that enable that, and that whole area of participation in the life of a university, which enables our students to survive and to thrive at university. You know, we've obviously heard a lot about shared learning, and about how students, and to use a pandemic phrase, how students infect each other with good ideas, how they share ideas across years, within groups, within social bonding, obviously as well. You know, but how they enable those colleagues to learn from what is an best practice. And I think we've also been hearing slightly, and perhaps this is the topic for another talk in this regard, but I think we're starting to hear some stuff around citizenship. You know, what is it like to be a citizen of a university and a citizen of your community? And I've certainly been picking up, Isabel certainly started to mention things about social justice and perhaps and community and belonging, and actually that's a lot of that is tied to a citizenship agenda as well. So how are we creating those active, influential, independent and influential citizens our students will become once they leave university, but also how they develop that citizenship piece within university themselves. So I think there's a lot of things that we can draw together from those talks, and again, we'd obviously encourage you to follow those up with us independently or whatever mechanism you like. Just to close, unless Lilla might have something else to add as well, so I'll give her the opportunity in a second. But also just to close by thanking Lilla and Peter, who's absent, but I know wanted to be here. Thank you to Joachim and to Isabel for fabulous presentations. We've really enjoyed just meeting up as a four to have conversations about our activities anyway, so I think we've been a bit selfish in our own regard here. But also thank you very much for participating and listening to what we've had to say. Lilla, do you want to wish to close with anything?
Yes, thank you very much, Luke, and thank you all the colleagues who are here today. I think it's really important to speak about these topics, about our students and about their success, because we work a lot for them, and we are happy when we can see that they are successful at the university. So I'm really happy that you joined us, you joined this initiative, and you summarized the success of your creativity and of your pedagogical innovation at your home university. Thank you very much. I really enjoyed it, and I learned a lot. And it's a feel that there are people at the university who thinks in the same way as we do it. Thank you.
Goodbye, everybody.
Goodbye, everybody.